All right, thanks everybody for joining us today. My name is Tim Van Gotham. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Emergency Safety Solution. The focus of our company is to reduce the number of injuries and deaths that result from collisions involving disabled and vulnerable vehicles. And I'm here with my colleague and friend Larry. Larry, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Larry. Road medic. We are building and scaling and have been doing so for the past 2 decades, I'd say. The automotive industry's first digital, fully digital, sensor-driven vehicle emergency data network. And basically, in a nutshell, what that means is we're looking towards the day, and hopefully not the too distant future, whereby there is instantaneous crash notification. So that when, as an example, when an airbag goes off in a car, that vehicle is communicating instantaneously with a 911, 112, 999 emergency communication center. So ultimately, what that's going to result in is emergency vehicles hitting the roads within seconds in terms of an emergency response.
All right, thank you very much. So we're going to walk through some slides and material to frame the conversation, but please let's make this interactive. We have 45 minutes together, so please, if you have any questions or comments, please just kind of pipe up. So what Larry and I are going to talk today about is how to, a different approach maybe on how can we create a connected vehicle safety ecosystem. So first, let's talk about some of the shortcomings of the approach that we take today. I think as an industry, especially companies that are very technology focused, we tend to focus on the tech. And that's where the conversation with the marketplace and our customers start. We talk about bits and bytes and speeds and feeds and protocols and interfaces. And I think the result to the people that we're talking to is they're losing context. It's not clear what problem are we solving or what value are we creating for the end stakeholder. Now, the stakeholder could be an end user, but it could be a first responder, it could be a tow truck driver, it could be any number of different constituents that are out there. So our position on this is we should really keep that stakeholder or all of the stakeholders that we're trying to serve in mind as a principal focus. The other thing we tend to do is we focus on what each of us are doing. What is our company doing? And what that really creates is you lose sight of what is the ecosystem. And what we'll talk with you today about is, how does one company's activities kind of feed the next, feed the next, feed the next, so that at the end of the day, we're really solving the needs of what those stakeholders are looking for. And then kind of the final point is we talk a lot about cost or price. And we miss the opportunity to really talk about value creation. At the end of the day, it is what is the value that we're creating for those stakeholders. Larry, do you have any points to raise or add to that?
You covered it quite well.
Okay. So what we're gonna suggest to you today is a completely new approach. We're gonna focus on storytelling, and the storytelling is really gonna center around a particular end user in a particular scenario. Maybe that's another point that I should have added in the previous slide is we always get excited about what we're doing and we try to communicate everything we've ever thought about in that one meeting, make every single point that we have. And what we're going to talk about today is the power of really keeping it narrowly focused on solving a very specific scenario for a very specific user. What that will show then is what is the role that each company plays out. So as we're talking today, many of you in the audience will see your company in these stories. And I hope you do. I hope you really say, wow, I see the role that my company can play in what we're working on. And if it's not this story, there are other stories that you can pick up and tell where your company's capabilities does come to life. So we're gonna walk you through that. We're gonna, what that also sets the stage for is it frames and guides, well then, how does the solution come together? What is the technology? What is the role of each of the companies? What are the interfaces? What's the data that has to get collected and shared? All of those things become a lot clearer because everybody in the conversation is focusing on the problem or value that you're trying to create. And then it also allows us to really think about how do we package this solution? What's the business model? How is it sold and purchased, into the marketplace? A lot of those things become, in our opinion, a lot easier to talk about, understand, and digest, because you have a very clear understanding of what is true north. What are we really trying to drive towards? All right, so I'm going to introduce a framework first that's called a journey map. And as you can see at the top, we're going to break this into scenes. So think about scenes of a movie or a play or kind of any type of production. But we're going to walk through a series of things, and really this represents the continuum of need or want of the stakeholder. The other thing that we're gonna show is some imagery. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? So we're going to use some simple imagery. This is not super high fidelity graphics, but it gives you kind of an understanding, a pictorial representation of each of these scenes and what's kind of going on. We're going to complement that with really the root of what is the story that we're telling. What is the scenario that this particular stakeholder is in, and what are they going through, and what are kind of their needs or wants as this moves forward. And then most importantly is what is the value that we're creating in each scene, every single step. There needs to be a purposeful value that we're delivering back to this particular stakeholder. So let's go ahead and start. So let's meet our friend Sophia. So Sophia is a 24-year-old professional, and she's commuting to work in her electric vehicle. So she is our principal stakeholder as we tell this story. Sadly, on the way to work, she gets into a collision. A tanker truck veers into her path, and not only does she collide with the tanker truck, but sadly, another car that was also on the road had to swerve, and they go into a lake. A rental car now is in the lake. And to Larry's point, immediately, we trigger an emergency service that gets everything started. We immediately notify other people that this has occurred in all three of the vehicles: the car, Sophia's car, the tanker truck, and the vehicle that's in the water. And the real opportunity here is that for that rental car driver in the water, that there are sensors in the vehicle that understand that this has occurred. They roll down the windows and they make it possible for that rental driver to get out. The other important thing, though, is that an instantaneous IP notification is sent from the tanker truck, the rental car, and Sophia's car, so that we can immediately engage the response process. Now, from this point forward, we're going to focus mostly on Sophia, but we, in other scenarios, could unpack, well, what do we do about the rental car driver? What do we do about the driver of the tanker truck? We're not going to do that because, to my earlier point, we want to keep focus on one stakeholder, one set of scenarios. Right, so this could be the lead-in to three very separate stories as we move forward, because each of them are in a different kind of circumstances, catalyzed by the same event, but their needs are very, very different. All right, so the first thing that can happen is, how do we protect the scene? So what we are saying here is immediately all of the cars recognize that this collision has occurred, and they start flashing their lights at a much higher rate. And what that communicates to all of the other drivers is the urgency, right? Something catastrophic has happened, and what we believe is that by changing the light pattern to this conspicuous behavior, it's going to give the other motorists that are now coming upon that scene a better visibility of what has happened. And we can see that our little rental car friend is swimming away from their car. The other important thing, though, is even though lighting is great as a line of sight solution, we have the opportunity to leverage digital connectivity, so we can put a warning in the dash of the other motorists that are coming up. Hey, there's this collision that's incurred in front of you, giving even more time to slow down and move over. So the value here is, through digital alerts, we can let these other drivers know that, and then they have even more time to react. You with me so far? Okay. And then quite importantly is we obviously need to get all of these people involved in the collision the help that they need. So the IP signal that goes out is shared with the local responders, and then they can immediately get the right assets on the road to go help out in this particular situation. And what we know is that the timely notification of emergency responders accelerate response time, because for every minute that these people are sitting there waiting for help, their risk profile is going up and up and up. Craig, I can't remember the statistics off the top of my head, but it's like 3% for every minute of sitting there, your risk profile goes up 3% for every minute you're waiting for help. And it's not, I mean, this is tragic enough, but it's what makes it even worse would be the second collision, the third, the fourth. Right, particularly on this kind of scene, which is a country setting, people are driving around, maybe not, they're looking at the lake and enjoying the view, maybe not noticing what has played out here.
I would add for context on this one, that the contact of the 911 center that would be typically an OnStar, a SiriusXM, a Bosch call center solution. That is separate from the instantaneous IP notification. So you really have dual notifications. You have the backup. As an example, if this event happens to occur in an area where there is no cellular coverage, there's going to be no OnStar alert that's going to go out of the vehicle. But with the instantaneous IP notification that could be cellular as well as satellite, you're ensured as an emergency backstop that the alert is going to go out of the car. So I just want to add that for some context.
And that's good. It reinforces the point I made earlier, is now that you understand the situation, when you start thinking about the tech that could apply, these things start to come forward, right? What is there today? What are some of the limitations? Can we really solve this scenario with what we have, or do we need to go create something new?
Yeah, right? And the vision at the end of the day is, to be in a life where if an airbag deploys anywhere on this planet, that signal is getting through to emergency services. It shouldn't be restricted by the fact of, as an example, cellular connectivity, that if you're in an area that doesn't have cellular connectivity, you don't have that support. So that's the vision here. No matter what the vehicle emergency, no matter where you are on the planet Earth at this point in time, that alert is going to get through.
Right. All right, let's continue, because we're not done, right? So our friend Sophia is still in her car. So let's see if we can get her out. So the other key thing to understand, though, is that the tanker truck was carrying hazardous material. And what we can take advantage of is the camera systems, the LiDAR systems, the other equipment that happens to be on our vehicle, and we can send that information back to the dispatcher. So now they have even more information that they can make the right decision. What type of equipment do I need to send? And this is not a classic, just fender bender. There's some pretty bad stuff that might be going on or could soon happen. So how do we bring that information through the same infrastructure, that we're using, this IP connection? And then the other nice thing about things like LiDAR in particular is not only does it convey what's happening on the scene, but it does it in a way that doesn't violate anyone's privacy. Everyone gets kind of caught up in some of these ideas, but the nice thing about LiDAR in particular is you can't really make out facial features, you can't make out license plates necessarily. So anybody that would be concerned potentially about privacy, yeah, Roger?
Are you going to talk about in-cabin sensors as well?
Yep. Give me a second. All right, but this is important now because the dispatcher has even more information. They know the airbag's deployed, great, but now they can actually see what's going on in the scene.
So in the case of the hazardous material, so they contact like OSHA.
Whoever they need to. So either the local response centers, this is really your expertise, Larry.
Yeah,
but
I mean, there's
Different because OSHA is because of the environment.
There's an intelligent message broker that is a secure channel that is a whole host of recipients that are privileged to the information on a permissioned network, right? It's not a network that's available to anybody and everybody, like, if you think about it in terms of tow truck companies and, insurance companies. No, this is a secure, direct channel into 911, 112, 999 public safety.
Right.
Only for that.
Only
So,
for that use.
only for that use.
Yeah.
And they will distribute to the appropriate agencies that would be required in something like this. So certainly in terms of a fire department and hazardous waste, what, as an example, what hazardous cargo is this fleet vehicle carrying? Well, one of the approved nodes is one to that fleet company to notify them, but more importantly, determine what is in that truck. And all this is happening instantaneously.
Yeah, right. All right. So let's move on. So since our friend Sophia is in an electric vehicle, it's important that the responders that arrive on the site know how to get her out. The airbag's deployed, cars, not operable. It's not like the good old days where you could take the jaws of life and just start, peeling the car apart. An EV has very high power electrical wires running all over the car. Obviously, you don't want to breach the battery and do anything that would put even more chemical, on the road. We already have a tanker truck leaking. We don't need to make that problem even worse. And so what we can do is give a VIN-specific extrication guide to those first responders so then when they arrive on scene, they know how to get Sophia out of the car. The next thing, though, is Sophia's sitting there waiting. Right? She hopes and probably expects that this notification has gone out, but she may not have gotten any confirmation that that is true. So what we can also offer is let's use the screen in her car and let's not only show that, hey, we know that you're in this situation, but we can show her that help's on the way. We can show them, where are those people at? We could give her an indication of how far away are they, what's their estimated time of arrival, so that she's not just sitting there terrified of what's happening. She knows that people are coming in. She has an expectation of when they're going to get there. And if she chose to do so, we could let other critical people know. We could let family or friends know. I know if this was one of my daughters, I would want to know immediately, right? So that I could start to act. Probably jumping in the car and driving out there myself. But I would want to know that this has occurred right away. Sophia's got more on her mind than trying to figure out how to place a phone call to me, right? So the system is just capable of doing it. So there's peace of mind, that helps on the way, and the awareness of the loved ones that that also help is on the way. But then I can start to act if I need to.
And I would add on this in terms of context that all of this information that's coming out of the car is all real-time consent-based information. So you have elected, Sophia's elected to share this information, what information and with who in real time.
Correct. All right, but we're not done. So finally, help's arrived. The responders are able to safely get her out of the vehicle, get her off. So the fact that we reduced the response time, the responders knew what they were going to meet when they got there, and other critical information. They can immediately administer care to Sophia and get her on her road to recovery. And then on the final scene for her is on the way to the hospital. Then information about her medical condition can be also communicated from the ambulance, to the people that are going to meet her in the trauma center or wherever she happens to be heading. So all of that information can be sent to them. So again, they can prepare properly on how to treat the condition that Sophia is going to be in when she arrives there. And then if she's opted in, we can share that information with family and friends too. What hospital did she go to? Where can they meet their loved one so that they can participate in that recovery as well. So go ahead there.
Yeah, I would say on this one, just as Tim said, this is one scenario, but this is, just to give an idea, this is a very evolutionary, flexible format. As an example, I mean, we see the day when, as an example, vital health parameters are part of the instantaneous IP notification. I mean, that technology exists today. It's not a technical issue at all. It's a business issue. And we need to be able to, as a community, as an automotive community, and this is what I was talking about yesterday in the panel discussion, we need to bring the automotive community together with the first responder community, and we really need to get everybody around the table to collaborate and cooperate on the many opportunities that potentially could evolve from this map.
Correct. Yeah, so just to build on that, imagine had Sophia opted into that kind of capability, maybe she had a heart condition. The responders would love to know that. Maybe she, is epileptic or something. Whatever information she's chosen to make available to the right people with the right permissions, so that they know what they're going to deal with when they get there.
Yeah, and I would even take it a step further. I would say, picture of the day, and it's very close now, in terms of emergency takeover technology on autonomous vehicles. Today we talk about how ADAS systems, LiDAR ADAS enabled systems that can detect some type of activity, health activity that renders somebody incapable, and the autonomous system automatically takes over control of the vehicle, and even some systems go beyond that to be able to move it beyond stopping in the middle of a freeway to actually navigating the car to the side of the road and turning on the flashers and making an emergency call to a telematics service provider. We envision the day that, this type of technology, it'll all be automated, and that instantaneous notification that you're at the side of the road suffering a heart attack, and we're doing the notification within seconds, that is truly life-saving.
Right.
I mean, it's inspiring to know, the true potential of what we're talking about.
Right. All right, so Raja, you asked earlier about in-car sensors. What specifically did you have in mind?
Well, just the physical state of the driver,
Yeah.
either before or right after the crash.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of car companies are putting in, heart rate monitors, facial systems. Could that kind of information be made available? Of course. Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's the example in terms of Mercedes with the Garmin watch is a perfect example whereby, that today the car is communicating with the watch in terms of those vital parameters.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see very easily how there can be a connection into emergency services that's instantaneous,
Yeah.
From that system.
Right.
So
Right.
again, it's not a technology problem.
No. I mean, a lot
It's a
of
business issue.
Yeah, a lot of the driver monitoring systems that today are focused on gaze detection and driver distraction are also capable of measuring heart rate. They can just see the minute fluctuations of your facial blood vessels, and measure heart rate. It's kind of scary, but it's capable.
There's startups out there
They're doing
today.
some cool stuff.
I think of Mealy Technologies as an example. If anybody's familiar with them
Yeah.
in the room, they're a perfect example for detecting in-vehicle health emergencies. And
Are you gentlemen being too polite to talk about how OnStar is no longer the gold standard because they have, their operators are kind of getting in between the direct communication?
I think they still have a role. We'll come to your question in a second. They still have a role. If we go back to, go back to, maybe I can go back. I'll get it. Stop. Roger broke the computer. Tim broke the computer. So scene 4, if we could. Oh, see, now you made fun of me and you broke it too. So scene 4 is really where OnStar plays today. And this the goal of this is to not try to disintermediate anybody.
Right.
Quite opposite. It's let's find an opportunity where many people can contribute to this ecosystem. This is what they do today. Could they do more? Sure. Can others probably do that too? Probably. Our goal is to not.
But you understand this?
Absolutely, okay. I do. All right, question back there?
I have 2 questions. First one, I heard that you were expecting her to share consents real time. How do you envision that? And then I like the storyline. Have you considered perhaps creating some sort of standard around how at each of these interfaces trying to standardize the messages and things like that? Like how do you expect for this whole ecosystem to get tied together?
I will come back to that answer in 2 slides. If you hold. I don't think the consent is real time. I think the consent is done up front.
Actually, I've
Or
got a
is it?
member in the audience that can answer that
Oh,
question.
where?
Okay,
Yeah.
introduce yourself.
My name is Niklas Villanov. I work for Aiden Auto, and what we're building is basically a service hub focused on consent management. So a way in which you can select, and whoever's in the car can select what services they want to run. So it's one possible solution you could use where you just consent to, I want to use this service, and you just agree to
But
sharing your data.
the OEM will have to select your service and be pre-installed inside of the vehicle as a kind of middle layer between you and the driver and the underlying vehicle services.
So in our particular case, we actually don't require additional software to be installed. We have one solution, and then without having per service software installed, you don't need that. You just define whatever data you need from the vehicle or the driver, and there's one user interface based on web.
And you run it on a phone or you run embedded in the car?
Embedded in the car. We utilize the fact that basically all these cars are running Android in the infotainment systems.
Right, but the OEM has to pre-select you, so you have to contract out with the OEMs.
Well, no, actually, I don't want to go turn.
No, but I appreciate you just not going down this, but
It's just an example.
yeah, but what I love is this is exactly what this framework is intended to do.
Thank you.
Right? How do we walk through true scenarios, real life scenarios, and now companies can go, hey, I do that, right? That's where I fit, or that's where I fit, or there's another scenario that we'll jump to in a second, but that's what's really kind of cool. And then to get to your technical question, now when I start unpacking what is the data, what are the interfaces between all the participants, how does information flow, what consents do I need, how do I manage privacy, cybersecurity, all of that now can be discussed and understood in the context of solving Sophia's problem. Yeah, Roger.
Well, and maybe clarify the significance of what you're talking about in terms of this is emergency response information only shared within this particular environment, as opposed to if you're driving a Tesla, Elon Musk's going to get all your information and then use it against you.
Yeah.
As opposed to,
And that's important in the consent. I did what we called it context aware because AI wasn't invented yet, but I did this kind of work in my past too. And in my opinion, if you're clear about what information you're going to collect and what you're going to use it for, and the value that you're going to create from it, people are fine. Oh, you're going to take my health data, and when I'm in a collision, you're going to send it to the proper authorities only for the purpose of helping me, I'm good. If you send it to a social media environment and it's going to be used to send, ads to me, no, I'm not. Right? It's a very easy thing to explain, and I think if we're transparent and clear, it's not buried in the 89th page of some user agreement that no one ever reads. It's right up front, plain language. I get it, and then I'm thrilled, right, when that information happens. Would I like an attorney? I have plenty of them. Yeah, Doug.
Hey, Tim. curious about the satellite backup call.
Yeah.
Does that require like additional antenna elements and additional chipset?
Not necessarily. So there's a lot of low Earth orbit satellite companies that are capable of interacting with current 5G cellular phones.
So like existing TCUs on the road today can call?
Not this minute, but it's coming. Yeah. I know in the past it used to be a completely different radio with a gajillion watts of power to get up to a satellite, but that problem's being addressed in the industry.
And there would there be any additional cost? Like, would you have to have a more expensive chipset in the TCU to enable that technology? So Harman and Bosch and
The different cost would be the airtime to backhaul over a satellite network versus a cellular.
OEMs, to get that technology, there's no cost to them?
Well, there's always cost.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, it's hard to give you a direct answer to that open of a question because it depends. There's a lot of it dependences here. But I know many of the cellular carriers are talking to satellite providers about making them part of their just coverage capability, right? Because you wander out of terrestrial coverage a lot, even today. I mean, pathetically, I'm so old. I go back to when we were doing telematics over analog cellular. That's how old I am. Right? And we worried a lot about geographic coverage, but that's not how the cellular carriers represent their capability. Their network is population coverage. Well, if I'm in the middle of nowhere and I'm in this situation, their population density of 95% of the US does not help me because I'm in the 5% that they don't cover. It's exactly. So that's why when you really sit back and unpack these things, you start to uncover those edge cases, and we as a tech community have a responsibility to step up and solve it.
Yeah, so release 17 of 5G will have non-terrestrial network
Yep.
technology capability. And I think the main application is being able to locate things that may be out of the coverage area of
Yeah.
cellular. That was always the big criticism of eCall in Europe, that quite often collisions and crashes are happening off the grid.
Yeah.
Do you know if the new iPhones have that satellite calling backup?
That's different
Yeah.
from what they're talking about for release 17.
Yep.
It'll be built into the standard for 5G. But that's another year or two away.
Yep. All right. So I guess before I jump to this, any other kind of comments on this framework? Does this make sense? I mean, does it kind of resonate with people in the room as a different way of us approaching this topic? I see a lot of notes.
The thing is, it's not well understood, and I think a lot of people just take it for granted that
Yeah.
this kind of stuff is happening, and it is absolutely not happening.
Yeah, because I mean, I've been in this industry for a long time, and I've both presented technology and been the audience of presentations. And when it starts in the middle, and it's just about technical attributes of certain things, I'm lost. And I'll give you 5 minutes for me to find my place, and then I just stop listening.
People don't understand. They think it's happening.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I was with one of my sales guys in Southern California. He foolishly, with his extended cab F-150, tried to do a U-turn in front of a car, an Audi coming the other way. It was interesting to see that Audi sort of shattered when it ran into his
Yeah.
F-150. But he didn't realize what was happening because the E911 app immediately activated. I understood what was happening.
Yeah.
His phone lit up, and he's just like, "What's this?"
Exactly.
He just disconnected it.
Oh no.
That was his 911 call that the vehicle was
Yeah.
making.
Right. Yeah, because Sync uses your personal phone.
Yeah.
Oops. I'm fine. I'm good.
There's more.
2 more slides. All right. So here's I think the opportunity. This was one scenario, but there's many. We still haven't kind of taken care of the person in the lake. So what about that person, right? Submerged vehicle. I'm in a lake. Not all accidents conveniently happen on the side of the road. You're upside down in a lake. You're down in a ditch. You're covered in foliage. A lot of the same kind of things could happen, but the scenario for that person is very, very different. What about the truck driver? There's a lot happening in the commercial fleet space. Let's not forget about that person that's sitting there also waiting for help and maybe terrified that they see there's stuff leaking out the back and it probably shouldn't be, right? And even worse things can happen as a result. We talked a little bit about driver event. What if I'm having a heart attack, or I've fainted, or I'm having a diabetic, emergency? Any of these sorts of things can be triggers that launch this instant IP notification that I'm in trouble. Kind of help me. Stolen vehicles in the rental space is a huge problem. Cars go missing all the time. They have no idea where they're at. So what can we do to help the rental car companies, get those assets back? They spend a lot of money, buying and deploying their fleet, and cars go missing all the time. Or they're wrongly reported stolen, right?
Minor problem.
Right, yeah, or they're wrongly reported, somebody's innocently driving, and suddenly they get pulled over and arrested, and they're like, wait, what? They didn't know that they were even in, a stolen rental car. There's been a lot of news lately about robo-taxis, but how can we do things for, kind of that side of the market, or an autonomous car that just suddenly decides, I don't have enough information to safely continue to drive, and it just stops, right? How can we help the people that are in those sorts of situations? And there's many, many more. So to stay out of trouble, I'll move on and basically just call you guys or invite you guys to come join us in a forum that we're going to have in early November. So we've already worked with the Covesa team to schedule a meeting on November 9th. At noon. If you go to the wiki page that Covesa hosts and go to their community calendar, you'll see that meeting. We'd love for you to join us, because not only would we like to capture scenarios, but we could make some decisions about which of those do we have some energy around. And then let's start unpacking them. Let's start talking about technical standards. Let's talk about interfaces. Let's talk about underlying tech. Let's talk about business models. And we can really start coming together in this community and as an ecosystem, going back to the spirit of this talk, but building out these ecosystems where we can come together to solve the end user need, and then bring the value that each of our companies here can contribute into that. Closing comments?
You did a great job. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, not to derail the end of the presentation and move on to the next, but is the intent on the November 9th call to also bring up VSS and other
Sure.
standards
Sure.
and leveraging the work that's being done?
Absolutely. I am too bloody old to start over every day, right? So if there are standards that are out in the market and we can just leverage them, it lets us get to market faster. If you go in the panel discussion that Larry and I were in yesterday, it reduces friction. Let's not just go reinvent the wheel. If VSS can support this, then we're going to leverage it. If we need to extend VSS to add capability, then absolutely we're going to work back through Covesa's. Covesa Mike has an opinion. Angela. I'm sorry, Larry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I would add to that point. Thank you, Mike, for bringing that up. And I want to give a tangible example of where Covesa, right, and the community, in my humble opinion, can really be very impactful. And that would be including a airbag deployment signal as an example in a VSS specification. Nobody's ever asked for it before, as I understand, in terms of VSS. But that would be a way to democratize.
Mm-hmm.
Well, more importantly, it raises the level of urgency.
Right.
Indeed.
This is something that critically needs to be done, not a nice to have.
Indeed.
Yeah, so that would be really, really helpful, as an example.
Yeah.
And we know from the work we've already done in VSS that there's so many different examples and use cases, and the architecture, of such was to be able to extend the tree.
Yeah.
To be able to support all kinds of different things, vehicle or even, non-vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, wonderful.
Yeah. Any other question?
Yeah, so I'm wondering for that working session,
Mm-hmm.
are you planning to have someone, a medical expert for standard space that's for communicating the information of the.
If we need him, sure, let's get him.
Seems like that'd be good if you're talking about the vitals and what are those standards to relay,
Yeah.
whatever.
The goal, I think the goal of the next session is let's just start creating maybe a list of what are these scenarios, what is the real problem that we're trying to solve. We can, if you guys like this framework, we can find champions that want to maybe take a few of them and start building.
That's
them
actually
out.
a really
Yeah,
good
but
suggestion.
that's a great
Thank you.
suggestion to
And
bring
I
in.
think probably we should talk to Lisa
Yeah.
Spellman.
I
from-
talked. We talked last night with Lisa for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, Lisa would be a great,
SAE,
because she
yeah.
comes from a whole HIT, Health Information Technology background, standards with SAE, so she would be perfect for that subject matter. So thank you.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much for your time and attention. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, once again, I just really want to thank Tim and Larry. I thought Larry really nailed it yesterday in talking about what we're trying to do to the 911 system and bring it into the 21st and 22nd century. And Tim's whole organization, hopefully had a chance at the showcase last night to see what they're trying to do in this world of bringing disruption on low-hanging fruit. This is an area that makes such sense, and how Roger nailed it again about with the airbag. This is not a nice to have, but when you said the urgency of what we're trying to do. So once again, you're going to get a theme today of these areas of the birds of the feather groups that are going on in these activities. This is not just trying to be an information passing. We're trying to create the forum for the collaboration and these discussions to continue as we learn where we're going in the future with this. So once again, thank you so much for that.